It is also a culture of South Africa, but it was also one of the key things that have played a role in getting us this freedom and getting us to today. We must never undermine the tools that we use by our people to liberate us. And language is one of those tools. As we tell us from here, but the comrades of other people will never be watching so that the comrade economy should have one single education. So as consequence of the voices of the names, exercise and education. But every single time, we were making sure that our people had access to this education. Only the short time, necessarily there are young students education. We fought through the activism, which is a band of Papa. That's why we saw us and Baba's suit. And I'm glad because Nika goes Papa as called Papa. I think I said the local lady most of the time is the Barbie as California. So the necessity classes matters and we use the activism, but also the robust research department, which is our second component, is qualification. Our research is not done with this job. I really could PhD. We go to really experiences around, see celebrities that just needs to translate them. Almost human stories in our life. I hear of change the span is there up see that the is about the institution. It's entirely the civil qualification, civil base about who are activists. See the whole cellular agents, Latin compatible, equal form right tomorrow, what is our so we went in the Bible, Sibeli is Latin, they are it's because of faith agency as means. Abandonment don't think about Babana, like the city people's town. So the kind of season, our institutions of Ireland, but also this is the thing that we continue to do in basic education, where you arrive in agencies and this is our leadership committee, the Liberal reform, otherwise, but what we want is to build a sense of leadership inside of humans as a student in this university. Because this is one of the universities that have produced across Africa. And in United States, but every day we want to make each one powerful. What is your lead experiences as you go from that one? Is always sensible to the owner. Obama is like to know. Let's make it when young and you know what is on. Again, Omono Bay, because it's understanding the one, then you have to in your country. So that's why it's important something like this is important about this. So we're looking for people about the country. People who are saying they are only status quo and I want to avail my own voice in God to do something about it. So we will be establishing notation society. Now we're going to go with it could be my second society to establish our capacity. We will go our society or HCC and again I hear now it's adopted the HIV unit. So colleagues sign up high we encourage uses of the conduct and we have selection because of the good night or the night. So Engosi.
Thank you so much. Can we give her a warm round of applause, please? Thank you so much. Up next, we have the first student of the University of Fort Hare. I've noted the presence of Mr. Lingela from Residences. You're welcome. I've noted also the presence of Mayor Musina from Advancement. You are also welcomed. Colleagues, let me not waste time. As we welcome the President to the front, there is a clarion call that has been made. And I think it's also important for us to remember that universities are microcosms of the society. So, President, you've been challenged, but let me not take much of your words. Let us welcome the President of the ISRC to give a message of support, Mr. Martinez, to speak to us. Thank you so much. I must put it there for you. President is saying you guys are disappointing, you're not singing for him.
Comrades, I'm disappointed. Greetings to everyone in the house. Greetings to student affairs. And greetings to equal education, to the residence department, advancement, to the students, and special greetings to the SRC. Comrades, I think the previous speaker mentioned that one of the tools of trades that were used there back then, the struggle, was equity. So I was anticipating that you are going to wake me up by equity. So disappointing, comrades. But without wasting any time, my name is Apelele Martinez. As the speaker has said that, the first student of the University of Fort Hare, the SRC president. I'm based here in Alice Campus. I stand here on behalf of the SRC and of course on behalf of the students of the University of Fort Hare to do the message of support. Firstly, what I would like to say is that as the SRC, we appreciate and support the initiative that has been brought by the Student Governance and Development Unit in collaboration with Equal Education on this important day. So firstly, I would like to first quote the theme of this event. I think it was written even in the poster that the theme is saying, building youth power beyond the ballot. I think this event came in the right time whereby we are going to the national elections. So I think the theme is also relevant that we must build the youth power beyond the ballot. Because remember, it's not only about voting, because you can vote for this and vote for this, but then if you don't build a power beyond the ballot, it means that you will always suffer. So we need to stick to the theme of today, which is building the youth power beyond the ballot. Moving forward, now, how do we then build the youth power beyond the ballot? I think the guest speaker will perhaps allude on that. But then the topic of the day is saying, together organizing to increasing young people's expectations of constitutional democracy through education justice. Now, what does this say? This resonates deeply with our values as a student body and committed to equal justice and equal rights. So I just want to quote section 17 of the South African Constitution, which is on the Bill of Rights, because I think it is what is relevant to students. Section 17 of the Constitution of South Africa states that everyone has a right to peacefully, unarmed, and to assemble or to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions. In all other words, that is to protest. Remember, you have a right to protest, but then I'm not standing here saying that I'm encouraging students to protest, but I want it to be clear that to protest peacefully, unarmed, is your right as a student. I want that to be clear even to the university, because now in nowadays, as the speaker mentioned that during their years, equity was one of the things that was back then done. So students must know their rights. You must know your rights. Of course, your rights go with your responsibility. So when the Constitution of South Africa, Section 17, saying that you have a right to peacefully protest, then during that section, you must also know your responsibility. It means that your protest must not violate others' rights. But here at the University of Fort, in our days, like there's a bad culture that even if you are peacefully protesting and unarmed and not violating anyone's rights, now you are just seen like a hooligan or someone who's not controllable. So students must know that it is within the Constitution of the South Africa on the Bill of Rights. Now, on this day, I want us to remember what our forefathers and our grandmothers fought during the apartheid struggles. So let us remember the human rights and not just words. Let us remember that human rights are not just words on paper, but they are a foundation of a justice and unjust society. So even us here, as we're about to welcome the guest speaker, I think we must also emphasize that we must not just preach human rights via mouth or by word. We must also practice human rights, and we must also know our rights. Now, as we celebrate Human Rights Day, let's reaffirm our commitment to upholding the rights on every day. Because remember, even though the human rights is on the 21st of March, but let us make sure that every day is a human right. Human right does not end only on the 21st of March. Every day is a human right. You're not only having rights on the 21st of March. Every day is a human right, and your rights must go with your responsibility. Now, in closing, before I close, I'd like to also state that together we can build a future where every voice is heard and every concern is taken serious. Last but not least, let every day be Human Rights Day, and let us embrace our essential rights. And also, we must make sure that our human rights go with our responsibilities in our journey in becoming a free country. Because remember, you must have rights, but then you must also know your responsibility. For example, as a student, you have a right to education, but then your responsibility is to study. So your right must go with your responsibility. In those words, I thank you.
Thank you so much, President. Colleagues, we are close to finishing, and I was tipped off very well that most of us are here simply because of that other program. But I would like to believe otherwise. I would want to believe that that person that told me that is very wrong. I know you guys are not here for that. You are here to listen to the guest speaker and celebrate with us. And before we welcome the guest speaker to the stage, there's been a request for her to introduce herself. But I just want to quote one of the quotes by Dr. Natalie Kamen, who's the executive director of the United Nations Fund for Population Activities. And she says, open quote, "Let us embrace human rights, not just in laws and declarations, but in people's lives. close quote. And those are the words that are reiterated by the SRC president to say we not only celebrate human rights on the 21st of March, but every day has to be a Human Rights Day celebration. What you do, what you say, or how you treat another person reflects the type of person you are. And our guest speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is Ms. Noncedo Madube-Dube. She will introduce herself. She wants to do the honors. We have allowed her to do so. But can we all stand up and give her a warm round of applause as she comes to the front? Thank you so much.
Socialism, mama we, mama we, mama we, mama we, mama we, mama we, mama we. Nansi amandla. Mamela ke amandla ngawethu ngenkani. Amandla ngawethu ngenkani. Ngawethu ngenkani. Mandla. Yayiva. Comrades, students, members of equal education, members of the school community, Yasi University of Fort Hare, abakhaya bam abantu balapha eDikeni mandizibulisele nami emva kwemini. Igama lami mna ndinguNoncedo Madube-Dube. Ndifuna ubuza ne lamaqabane pha phezulu anxiba i-hat efana neyam. Can you comrades hear me? Okay. Abantu abapha ibag ngakwi water cooler uyandiva my leader? Sure. Ndifuna to make sure yonke lento yethu sizawuyenza apha namhlanje ingena kancane. Ne? Igama lami nguNoncedo mna. Ndisuka apha eDikeni eSheshegu. Namhlanje ndisebenzela kuthiwa into lanto usebenza inkomo, ndisebenza inkomo. eCape Town, i-headquarters yakwa Equal Education iseKhayelitsha eKapa. Ndizamcacisa njengo-itu benzile ba lo mbutho wenza ntoni kanye kanye. I'm the General Secretary. U-Equal Education usebenza like i-political parties zenu enizithandayo ne-trade unions. Every 3 years, young people of equal education, nabazali, and they teachers and youth between the ages of 18 and 25, bahlali Congress in Komfa, and they decide about the objectives of this movement. What is it going to do for the next 3 years? Pakla Komfa, we also elect a leadership. So, ndando nyulo ke ngendando ezininzi ngabafundi nabantu abatsha aba part of equal education to be part of this movement and support its work over the next 3 years. Umna ke mbangbanivuma uzothetha apha ne kuziqhenya qala about being from here. So benifuna uzohlala ekhaya ndincokole ngemicimbi yeli xesha. Yeah? The second thing is that because I am part of a youth social movement, ithetha into yokubana I'm also part of a collective yabantu apha ekhantrini aba involved kwinto ekuthiwa yi-civil society. Nakhe nalive lo gama? Abantu abasebenza ngokuhlala, abanye abantu bathi zii-NGOs. Ne? Pha kwi-civil society ke ngoku zibakhona ezinye social movements. Kukho amaqabane ekuthiwa ngabahlali basemjondolo xa bezibiza. Bane membership base of 50,000 across 3 provinces. Kuki treatment action campaign, lamakabana akalulweli ARVs South Africa. Kuko into ekuthiwa nguWamuwa, Women Against Mining Affected Communities, abathi hayi, xa isithi urhulumente sizawuthatha laa mhlaba, sisuse laa mangcwaba, sifake imine kuzawuphangela abantu phayana. Zii-movement ezinjalo siyadibana, sithethe ngeemeko ezitshisa ibunzi xa kunzima ekhantrini, sibuzane into yokubana, what can our people, iibhesi zethu, zingenza ntoni na ukuthi hayi kurhulumente, nokufundisana into yokubana, how do we make sure we can mobilize ubuntu, umntu, ukuhlala, to go and talk to government about ii-issues zabo. Sisahamba nisonke ne? I'm mentioning these things because ndifuna ninibone but andihambi ndodwa. Yeah? Now, ndize nemicimbi emithathu apha. But before I start, bendinicela amaqabane from the bottom of my heart, into yoba kakhona sime ngeenyawo ne? Mamela kodwa. Ndicela 20 seconds of a moment of silence. Ndiphethe ikhafiya apha namhlanje, andiyazi iposition yaseFort Hare on Palestine, but to me it's important. Xa sisithi bana no one is free until we are all free, sithe ngemicimbi eminje, ndizawucela 20 seconds. 20 seconds is a moment of silence. Ne? In the last 24 hours, 104 Palestinian people have been killed kwilizwe lasePalestine, apha eAfrika. Kweza bombings bezisenzeka in this last 24 hours, 162 have been wounded. Kukho ilabel entsha ke, i-abbreviation entsha esandophuma e-United Nations, ethi bana, child found, no surviving family. CFNSF. Inchakata, inhumanities experience of war in the world. Kuyaqala ubonwa isizwe sichabalala abantu bebukele ngolu hlobo. In the last, since October to namhlanje, over 310,000 Palestinian people have been killed. And it died, have been killed. Now, into yenzeke ePalestine kum, ndiyibona as the Western world, abantu abanemali, besithi because wena awufani nathi, enendawo uhlala kuyo sithi thina ngeyethu, banivumi siyanibulala. Mna ke zange ndaphila ngexesha le-apartheid bazali, but I'm an activist, and ndiyazibukela nendaba, and I understand the Human Rights Day yayintoni, kwakusenzeka ntoni eSharpeville. Ithetha into yokubana consciously ngokentliziyo yam ndiyi-understand imeko yomntu omtsha osePalestine. Siyamani sonke? Ndiyanicela maqabane 20 seconds menshilo mos ne? Just a moment of silence to give our own solidarity to the people of Palestine. Namhlanje across the country kukho abantu abenza into ekuthiwa yi-pilgrimage. Bayahamba imigama emide ukubonisa solidarity yabo to the people of Palestine. Bekuthiwa ngeli xesha ke between 2 and 4 p.m. kulaa ndawo mna ndisuka kuye eKapa, abantu in their thousands bazabe behamba from Claremont to Observatory in support and in solidarity with Palestine. Basuka Simon's Town, abantu baye down apho bazawudibanela khona ukuthandazela imeko yasePalestine. Just 20 seconds, please. Bani noma ngenyawo nto zakuthi in solidarity. Ndicela nilandele emva kwam, sihlala phansi, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you, comrades. Okay, ke. Sinemicimbi yethu mos nathi apha inside of our solidarities, ne? Ndifuna nibe poropops ke ukushushu phaphandla apha, ne? Nishiya makhaya enu nerooms enu naza apha, so let's talk to each other. Now, ndifuna uza nento ezintathu apha namhlanje, ne? The first is that I want to talk a little bit about beqalile uIdu ba yintoni le equal education, and isifundisa ntoni, I think is the big thing that I want to leave here. The first thing is that the organization is 16 years old, namhlanje. No namhlanje, kulo nyaka, mandibeke ngelo hlobo. Siyamani sonke ne? Bengincokola noQabane phandle buza ba yenzeke njani, ndayicacisa ngeli hlobo. In 1994 we had our first democratic vote. Siyamani sonke ne? In 1996, nabantu abaninzi nabantu abenza iB.Ed apho bazawuyazi. Some of the first laws as the progressives zonceda ukuhlala komuntu eSouth Africa were also put into action. Are we together? 94 siyavota, 1996 sifana imithetho ezawuncedisa to protect umuntu apha eSouth Africa. Now in that period between 96 no 99, kwakhe huge numbers, growing numbers of abantu balapha eSouth Africa dying of HIV and AIDS. Wavuka umbutho ezibiza the Treatment Action Campaign, ku-TAC ngelifutshane, niyiguglishe into zakuthi brilliant story and inabantu abamnandi pha ngaphakathi. Yathi TAC siyayibona into basinayo urhulumente ofana nathi, sasikhona ngoba kusiliwa, but ingathi asivani ngokungalo mcimbi wele HIV. Siyambani sonke? Sabe city ministers ekhandi, faka ibheetroot emntwini, umthi garlic uzaba right. Abesithi amaqabane no yivirus yamanyani le inidi ichiza and likhona urhulumente makathatha imali athenge ichiza fake emntwini. Siyambani sonke? So in the early 2000s the Treatment Action Campaign isebenze ne-lawyers ne-social activists ukubuild i-movement from the bottom up ekuhlaleni kuthethwa ngendlela i-antiretrovirals indlela yokufaka ichiza emntwini to prevent the spread of HIV and AIDS and the dying of people emakwethu. So, as iminyaka ihamba ke ngoku safumaniseka into yobana no man ngaphandle kwe-health system yethu South Africa zikhona nezinye izinto ezihlelelekileyo ngoku sinorhulumente omtsha. Siyamani sonke? And one of those things is basic education, primary and high schools. Adibana amaqabane athetha ba singathetha nabantu sincedisa man to make sure into yobana imfundo yomntana omnyama eSouth Africa iyaphucuka ingafani nakuqala. Kanye na ngela xesha apartheid. Badibana amaqabane eCape Town ekhaya elitsha. Adibana nabafundi abanje. Kodwa comrades, singenza ntoni ukuresponda kule nto yenu? Sifundile ke ngoku from Treatment Action Campaign into ba xa ufuna ukwenza into izawubonakala inceda abantu uyibuild up ekuhlaleni. Siyambani sonke ne? Ningahambi kaloku umuntu ufuna ukwenza TikTok comrades ayosela amanzi sithinde sincokoleni. Zathi lena zasekhaya elitsha kweso sikolo eyathi ingxaki actually zathi i-classroom zethu azinafestire. Ahlala amaqabane kodwa okay ke khanikhangeleni evidence nibuze nabanye abafundi into yokubana le ngxaki ninayo iyafana na. La nqabane amaqabane took cameras bayafota izikolo zabo bafumaniseka ngale investigation yabo apha ekhaya elitsha isikolo sabo andithethi ngaselalini mna ndithethe edolophini elokishini. Bafumaniseka into yobana of the whole high school only 8 classrooms have ifestire ezipheleleyo. Yaqala apho into ethi bana fix my schools. Bayibiza the Broken Windows Campaign. Basebenzisana lamaqabane, excuse me. Basebenzisana lamaqabane to build campaigns to mobilize omisi babo to go and talk to i-Department of Education ePhondweni and say sicela nilungiseni isikolo sethu man. After the campaign, many schools, many principals, many school governing bodies, including the teacher unions, came to find ababafundi and say equal education nathi siyakufuna eprovinsini yethu because ingxaki ikhona. Bakhona abantu apha abahlala eTranskei bebefunda high school elibode umzekelo kanye eBizana. Nizawuyazi le meko ndithetha ngayo. But lena ndiyibalisayo mna ngoku is the story of the building of a social movement yabafundi ngo-2008. But izolo ngobe senza door to door apha, there were too many of us abathi ndiyazi ngqo lento uthetha ngayo noncedo. Which means that 16 years later, while many of us, more and more of umntana omnyama is getting access to education, uyakwazi uyongena esikolweni ungabhatalanga fees. Imeko yesikolo sakho imaxongo. Ayifani nesikolo esisedown eMonti umzekelo. Siyambani sonke? And that is the reason and the motive force behind equal education. So we've got 5,000 members across 5 provinces. So sisebenza apha Eastern Cape, sisebenza KwaZulu Natal, eLimpopo, eWestern Cape naseGauteng. Aba bafundi bayadibana ke ngoku badibane bathothi bana zintoni issues zethu. Uthe uItu ke ngoku, in our model, sinele membership base solid, khona abazali, parent branches, nabantu abatsha between ages 18 and 35. Xa sidibanayo umfundi athi, no, ingxaki yam, ndenza umzekelo, ngekhampeyini yalapha ephondweni, ne, ezi-2, nekhampeyini yase-KZN, bathi abafundi akho transport yosithatha from endlini, yosibeka esikolweni. Abanye bathi bahamba 8 hours, not 8 hours, sorry, 8 kilometers from home to school. Sisahamba nisonke? What to equal education, that's fine. Sometimes, reality yakho, ne, ndikubalisela uba kwenzeka into ethile kum, is not enough to shift izinto for better change. Uzawufuna omnye umuntu ufakazi into yobana yinyani na le nto uthetha ngayo okanye ukhala ngayo. So phaa kwi-equal education kukho amaqabana zi-researchers asuka kwii-institutions ezifana neForte. Athi la maqabane masambeni siyongena ezikolweni zenu sikwazi ubhala into ethethayo le kuthiwa yi-evidence-based research ezawufakaza le experience ye-member. Siyamani sonke? Umfundi uyazithethela, umuntu omdala ofana nam nawe apha oyi-researcher akwazi uthatha la information ayidibanise akwazi uyenza iphepha elizawungena epalamente liyoxela into yokubana abafuna indaweni ethile, they need the provision of learner transport. So because of this model, what has happened in the last 16 years is that we have helped the right to basic education evolve. Ndithetha ukuthini xa ndithetha njalo? Ku-constitution yethu niyayazi i-Bill of Rights, yeah? Bayiqonda umcimbi onjalo abantu. Ithi laa nto, you've got the right to basic education. Siyayazi mase-Freedom Charter. The doors of learning opened, wonke umuntu makafumane imfundo. But these learners were asking the question, but what kind of education? Sancedisana ke ngoku with what we are calling movement lawyers. Into yokubana, cela siyombuza urhulumente into yokubana xa izikolo zabantwana zinje, is this still the right to education na? And what happened in those processes, nangomobilize abantu abafana nathi kwi-lecture ezinje apha eForte, safumaniseka into yokubana u-education xa yecinga nge-education, ucinga into yokubana yilaa nto yenzeka apha eklasini qha. So because uzixelela ii-ministers zethu zithi, no, comrades, what happens in the classroom is my responsibility. Umcimbi wemanzi, umcimbi we-transport, umcimbi wokutya, loo nto ngu-social development, ku-road, ku-energy and water, njalo njalo. Siyambani sonke, ne? Sakwazi ukuthi thina through these campaigns that is not correct. I-right to education iya-evolve because it includes the right to isikolo okwazi ufundela kuso, esinamacango, esine-fence, esine-festire, esine-desika, one learner, one desk. Eqhela ukutsho amaqabane. Siyambani sonke? Iklasi mansi iphuphumale over 45, igama layo yi-overcrowding leyo, awukwazi ufunda kwimeko enjalo, but thina sasada saziqhelisa lo meko. And so what has happened in the last 16 years is that now our constitution has been given legs. Legs ke ngoku yila base yethu ngabafundi abathi ayikho njalo yami imeko, I don't have access to education because ayikho mnandi. The legs now are that the basic education, the right to education includes the right to food. Yayingekho maqabane le nto ngoba yayiqala i-constitution. Siyamani sonke? But it is through activism that urhulumente understands into yobana iyashota i-right if ayinazo ezi zinto zizi-needs zabantu. So today, the right to education includes the right to transport. The comrades at KZN, what they did is they put pressure on government to make sure into yobana if umfundi is traveling more than 3 kilometers to esikolweni, lowo funeka ibe khona i-bus stop azokwazi ufumana iskola transport kuyo. Utsho umthetho ngoku. Siyamani sonke? Learners fought and struggled and mobilized and talked to government and said, xa ndisiya esikolweni, please ensure that I've got the right to a feeding scheme. Awukwazi ukuthi kumi iyashort imali, dibhatale ubanbani, dathenga i-printing paper. We must make sure that when you're accessing your right to education at klasini, you are also accessing the right to food. Sisahambani sonke? Utsho umthetho ngoku as a result of these struggles. And the third one is the right to decent infrastructure. Lo mcimbi ke niyabona nakwezinto zilapha emadongeni xa siphakamileyo into yokubana is still the struggle that we are waging to make sure that izikolo zethu have adequate classrooms ezingenziwanga ngodongo waselalini katata utshawe, but is built by government and is the right size, zingeni iidesika ezilingene i-age yakho phaa esikolweni, the right to water, ii-toilets ezinamacango avalekayo, njalo njalo. Siyambani sonke, ne? Now, what is the thing to learn about this? Kudala ndiyiphinda-phinda, but andingenile kancane na. If you've got a law, can you write Makabane, and shorter, awuzokwazi uthetha ngayo wedwa. Otherwise, it won't change. The other thing is that if you are undisciplined and unorganized, if uzawutshisa itaya every time wena feeling out awunanto, you're not going to win your right. Are we all together? The way to win rights and make sure that you can change impilo yakho nemeko yakho yokuhlala, because you've got rights, it's a Bill of Rights, the Constitution, is by being organized, nokuhlala nokusebenzisana nabanye abantu progressively. Akho tshisa itayari. You mobilize each other, you talk about the issue, and then you go and find the person who's got the power to change it and engage them over and over again around singayifumana njani le nto izawuphucula indlela thina esiphila ngayo and or are experiencing this right. Are we all together? Ndiyanicebisa ke niya kwi-SRC elections. You need to start thinking about finding leaders that are going to be open to hearing you xa nisiza ngendlela ezitheni ezi-progressive ebantwini to talk about needs zenu on campus spaces umzekelo. Siyambani sonke? But awuyenzi wedwa lanto. And awuyenzi because of the ego yakho ne-emotions. Uyenza nabanye abantu because it is a collective issue and a collective need and a collective pain. The only way to understand those collective things is if siyathetha regularly nabantu and we are organizing each other around our access and our needs to these rights. Okay. The other thing that happens now from 16 years of activism is that no mama ose okuqoboqobo okanye ose Northwest xa inengxaki apho umntanakhe ehlukumezeke esikolweni, because people have started to understand and know who equal education is and believe in the right of aba bafundi, they can easily then call us and go ndicela nincede ngemeko ethile. But at the same time, i-department, even nalapha ephondweni, xa inengxaki ifuna ukwazi information ethile about how abantwana are experiencing into esikolweni, okanye bafuna uintroduce i-law entsha ezawuncedisa to protect abantwana, baqala pha kuthi bathi equal education khanizeni man nisidibanise naba bafundi benu ithini into ethile kanye nezikolweni. So as soon as you're able to organize yourself nabantu, collective issues, collective meeting, organizing yourselves consciously, you're able to then start legitimizing yourself phakathi kwabantu osebenza nabo. Now you are understood as a voice, a sober, a sensible, eyaziyo le nto ithetha ngayo, that can be engaged to build new policies nemithetho and protocols njalo njalo ukuphucula imeko yokuhlala le nto kade uyilwela wena. Siyambani sonke? So over time, the only way to sustain your struggles if you want to change things in the world is to do it with others and to do it all the time. Rhoqo, sidibane, sithethe, understand each other's needs and then act collectively, so that people can engage you from a place of trusting le nto uza ngayo. This is a lesson I've learned through being inside equal education for a long time. Mna ndiyibalisa because nihlele forte namhlanje, but I want you to understand that even as you go out into the world, on the other side of your degrees, these are the things you must be doing if you really want to live in South Africa eyohlukileyo kunalesinayo namhlanje. If you want to live in a better world, you have to make sure that you go and act. Before, but we must act together, ube conscious nawe, but you must do it as a collective with other people. Okay. The second thing, so I've talked about the lessons from equal education. The second thing is this idea of about this idea of building youth power beyond the ballot. And why is that thing important? If you think about now, TV, or you're looking at TikTok namhlanje, when people are sharing footage of what happened at Sharpeville, it was an organized mass acting together to resist the oppression ethile, the injustice ethile. But what they were doing is displaying people's power. So thina sifuna uthetha about a different kind of people. Not ukuhlala kanye umuntu nje, but young people particularly. And why? Because over 60%, the majority, over 60% of the people abahlala apha eSouth Africa namhlanje are young people. Siyamani sonke? There's more of us than abantu that are 40 years and above. apha ekhantrini. And if you take my advice about the first thing, acting together, the only way to actually change is, to become what you need is by acting with other young people. Masikhangeleni guys as la 60%, talk to each other, determine mana zithini issues zethu, sifuna zenziwe nini, siqhubeni with an action. Siyambani sonke? The second thing, and if you challenge ngayo, ndizayi unpack nale story, ne? Is that as young people, if citizen needs ne issues, ne, and if you build youth power, the youth power yethu, it must be intersectional. Into xa intersectional ithetha ukuthini ke ngoku? Ndizakwenza umzekelo ngam, ne? Mamela payback. Umna, I am a black woman. Siyambani sonke, ne? So race, I am black. Gender, I am woman. Intersection yam, go black woman of race and gender. Siyambani sonke? Mna, I come from a working class family. Ba kupeywanga kanye uthathe imali yakhe ubhasibani asizotya ekhaya. Nansi intersections ndathu ngoku. I am a woman, I am black, but I am also working class. Siyambani sonke? Any intersection is that I am queer. So I only date people that look like me. Maybe feel is the better word. Feel like me. And the into yobana nazi ezinye intersections. I'm one body. Ne? Ndifuna freedom nandiyi-one ndinje. But zininzi izinto ezilapha phakathi kum. I am a black woman who is working class and queer. Siyambani sonke? So xa ndisithi kuni, if we're going to decide on issues, iyashota if it is not intersectional, loo nto leyo siyi-organizayo. If le nto siyi-organizayo imnandi only when there's men in the room, iyashota. It is not true freedom. Siyambani sonke? If this thing that we're organizing has both men and women, but it only has white people, iyashota, it is not freedom. Siyambani sonke? If the thing we're organizing has black, brown, white people, men and women, but it is homophobic, iyashota, it is not freedom. Siyambani sonke? If the thing we are doing together is got queer people, is welcoming queer identities, is black, white, brown people, men and women, but in a problem with someone that is a foreign national, iyashota, it is not intersectional. Funeka siyibhilive ngenhliziyo zethu sonke maqabane that when we took the baton from abantu abadala in 94 and even in 96, if we don't address all of these things when this biza up, then the revolution is going to be missing something. Izawuphalaka isaqala. Siyambani sonke? Nikhe nive la mcimbi uthi bana we are not free until we are all free. Are we together? A student namhlanje ohlele UCT that is studying in a very different environment to this one can believe in the all access to higher education is amazing. But you may have a different experience along the way. But if I touch and I think and I dibani le meko yakho nela meko yakhe, then low action yenza nonke iya shorter and izoba sustained. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So when we're talking about building youth power, youth because we are the majority population in this country, power because if we build from the bottom up, the ordinary person. Asinamsebenzi ngoku into bakukho bani kwi-placard ethi vote for me pha estratweni. It's not about the big men in politics. It's about us. The people with experience, the people with a story. And then in building this youth power, it must be intersectional. Mayizibale zonke imeko zokuhlala kokuphila komntu. Siyambani sonke na? Nimkhangelo intersectionality ukhona napha ku TikTok, comrades. Why now we wanting to build this youth power beyond the ballot? Ebetshile mos deputy president apho wathi bana idemocracy awuyenzi ngenxa uvota qha. Democracy is now, galamini kuvotwa ngayo, and on the other side of the ballot. Why ndisitsho? Ndifuna ukwenza imizekelo emithathu. Besibuzwa ngomnye uqabane last week into yobana, do we think the ANC is going to lose majority in this next election? Wonke umuntu ke mosuyikho mosune mathambo ovumisa imeko ezinjalo. Sathi yena, yeah, okay, it might lose majority, not lose majority, it might have less numbers than it did in the previous election. Yeah? But mhlambe izolose majority. But ke ngoku sangena equal education sathi yima masicacise into apha. The conversation around elections is not about the ANC and their numbers. The conversation is that when people stop voting for the ANC, who are they voting for? Niyandiva? Manenza umzekelo ke ngoku. There's an offshoot party coming out of the ANC called the MK. Sizamamela? Ithi president ye-MK, xa umntwana oyintombazana emithi esikolweni uzawubanjwa asiwe Robben Island. Imbadlo na leyo. Xa sisithi kuni as young people, let us register to vote. Masiyozikhetha iinkokheli zethu, zikwazi ubhadla. Sithethe into ezinjalo. Kukho ipati phaa kulaa ndawo exhaphakileyo kulaa ndawo ndixelelwe ngakuyo bendithe mos ndisenga inkomo, ndisenga inkomo eKapa. Kukho ipati phaa eCape Town kuthiwa yi-Patriotic Alliance. Benikhe nayiva ngayo? KaGayton Mackenzie. Uthi uGayton Mackenzie yena, if umuntu oyindoda ufunyaniswe edlwengulwe umuntu, makasikwe inantsika zakhe. Now, mamelani kaloku. Xa sisithi register to vote, ebethe uKhomadzolane apha bana zifundeni into zelizwe so that you understand the choices that you can make. Yandiva ne? Now, ubakhona sisi bebevuma ke phaa iback laa mcimbi bendibalisa ne, and saphinda sincokoleni phaa phandle sisiconscientizane. Now, if you're not registering to vote, mamela kaloku. Ayikazokwenzeka yima. Xa sisithi kuni register to vote, masiyicinge, can you spend a chance phaa phezulu, comrades? Sesizawugqiba. Xa sisithi kuni register to vote, think about the kind of leaders we want. Sizama uresponda kule issue ithi, when we are not voting for one party and we're choosing something else because sifuna ubona utshintsho, are we raising our expectations of that leadership na? Iyavakala? Lo muntu umtsho uzamvotela kanye uzawungena into governing. Uyifanele na ivote yakho, ubhadlile na nezinto azibawelayo yena for your country. Siyamani sonke? Nangumzekelo wesibini. Kuthiwana mosi, what we can expect in this next election is a coalition government. Siyamani sonke? I-coalition mosi siyayazi uba yinto enjani ne? Iipati ezahlukeneyo zizawusebenzisana zibe i-government eyi-one. So uhamba izawukwenza ngongomei le nto andibalisi ibali. Stay with me in the conversation. Now, okay. Now, the smaller parties, bezikhe zadibana kulo nyaka ukuphelileyo, zathi thina sifuna ukufoma i-charter eyokwazi into yobana siyisayineni sonke sivumelane apha into yobana xa sizawufoma ugovernment omtsha as different small parties, sizawuphatha njani na? Siyavumelana? Ndiyavakala ne? Bafuna i-charter ezawusayinwa ngumntu wonke, bavumelane on a minimum viable program for xa bephethe country bona. Dithetha nawe namhlanje, at least 4 political parties have withdrawn from the charter. Iipati zethu ezincinci ezizaba zi-alternative ziphakamise isandla last year sathi ingathi singaphatha, so masidibaneni sivumelaneni ngento. Namhlanje abasavumelani. Siyambani sonke? Do you know why I'm making that example? Ne? And I'm talking about this. Because when we are talking about building youth power beyond the ballot, ikuthi into maqabane nabantu abalapha in this room to make sure that whoever is in government after the 29th of May is there to serve us and not their party t-shirt. Siyambani sonke? We have to insist because political parties and the ANC that when you find power on the other side of Sivotile, you must be making a commitment to us and our issues. Never mind which party has what number. It is all a distraction. Iyavakala le ndithayo. Sizawuvota uzaba khona urhulumente nobunjani na. What we must be doing together, in terms of collective from the ground, youth, what we must be doing together is setting an agenda for abantu ethi bana singabantu abatsha boMzantsi Afrika noba kuphethe bani na sifuna le nale nale nale. And when you are setting up these demands, be very aware of leaders that aren't meeting your expectation of leadership. Akekho umntana oza eRobben Island sisaphila. Umzekelo. My last story along with elections. 2 weeks ago, kuphume into ekuthiwa yipoll. Nikhona ibone phaa WhatsApp group ndiyithanda ukufa. Mhlawumbi sifuna udibana ngeyiphi date right 14th ne-15th 3 o'clock kuthiwa yenza ipoll. Umuntu uvela acofe laa date right for yena. Iphume sithi okay ke siyavumelana siyadibana ngolwesine. Niyayibona laa mcimbo njeya? Yipoll mos leya. Xa kuzobakho ii-elections ke ngoku abantu abaninzi understand babalulekile ekhantrini baqala urun ii-polls. So uzaba khona i-poll yakwa-SABC News, ibe khona i-poll yase-University of Ndondon. Bathi bona sikhangele abantu sababuza imibuzo nazi impendulo zabo. Siyamani sonke ne? Ngomcimbi we-poll. Okay? Kukho i-foundation ekuthiwa nguBrent Hurst. Ndiyayoyika ke nezikhamera nto zakuthi, but it's fine. So sesiyibone xa isenzeka. Kukho i-foundation ekuthiwa nguBrent Hurst Foundation. Ne? uBrent Hurst yena ukhuphe imali wanika ii-political parties eziyi-5. And yes, this busy kwanina niyoyika kwanina sonuvuma. Naka sisithethe inyani if we want to really move ourselves. uBrent Hurst unika ii-political parties eziyi-5 imali. Wathi kwezi political parties, nina, if not this election, ku-election elandelayo, umsebenzi wenu is to unseat the ANC. Siyamani sonke? And ke ngoku anganike one athi nansi imali ambokwenza u-unseat la ANC sokolisayo kanye corrupt. Uthe ndifuna nibe bayi-5. Nibe nee-t-shirt ezohlukeneyo, nee-leaders ezohlukeneyo, nisebenze kwii-provinces ezohlukeneyo, nihoye issues ezohlukeneyo. But noba yi-5 siyanipositiona ngoku that between this election and the next one, you must be unseating the ANC and taking over key portfolios in parliament. Siyamani sonke ne? The reason I'm sharing this, because uBrent Hurst ukhuphe i-poll 2 weeks back. Esithi ANC zafumana inamba ethile, ipati ethile zafumana inamba ethile, njalo njalo. Kuyabuzwa ke nguBrent Hurst, le poll yenu niyenze njani? But asifowunele abantu. Iyabhadla i-poll eyenziwayo ngee-elections ezinje around phone calls. Because there's no engagement with umntu mos, person to person, on why are these your choices, njalo njalo. So that the letter sifundayo ye-poll yakho, sikwazi uyifunda into yokubana, why did you make the decision as umntu? Siyambani sonke ne? But the reason I'm sharing this story is not about the phone calls. It's because kukho i-organization yabelungu that is putting big money behind 5 political parties, and then bakhuphe a poll publicly, but South Africa icinga lento nge-elections. La poll bitatazelisa abantu, hayi, kutheni kuza, and that's the idea, to distract and give deep emotions, noba zibhadlanga, to the electorate, so that lento yakho ipushayo wena can emerge. Siyambani sonke? Ndizama ukuthi ke ngoku, outside of being aware and raising your expectations of leaders zenu and organizing each other for needs zenu, you must also be very careful of who's the money behind your political party. Because abantu nozibiza ezi parties eziyi-5 nizawuzibona into yobana ikhona ngamakamande sityantyisa siyafana zonke iinkokheli Okay, and for fine then. The reason the money behind your political party is important because the interest of the person who's donating that money will be the interest of the party in terms of your policies ayo. Siyambani sonke? Nizilumkela party ezithi ba unemployment problem ayikho South Africa, skills crisis, 40 universities. That is not true. And those kinds of things that are coming from Brandhurst and Jalonjala will affect what your education and what your opportunities to work look like. Nina bantu bahleli kwele holo namhlanje. Siyambani sonke? So think about those things and read in manifestos of political parties zenu before you make your choices for the 29th of May. But you know they see sebenzelayo go beyond the ballot. Xa inkokheli zethu zimile zathi mna ndiyafunga sukwazi uba ready sithi nansi agenda mhlokazi sifuna wenze lento for abantu abatsha South Africa over the next 5 years, and we're going to do that work together, comrades. Masambeni sonke in an intersectional approach. Pandle homophobes. Ndiyadlula kulo mcimbi. This is my third and last point of the reason that I came here. Zonke hashtags when ndazibona of the political parties apha esitratweni ke ngoku ezabhodi zithi the last hope, fix parliament, stop the suffering, we need new leaders, save South Africa, rescue South Africa, fix South Africa, corruption destroys our freedom. Zonke hashtags zidalwe to create anxiety and stress ebantwini. Ayikho one apha that is representing a new vision for a better South Africa. Siyambani sonke? Zikubonisa into yokubana what is wrong with the current system esinayo. Why singenamanzi 3 weeks? Azithi basizawukwenza ntoni thina to make sure that ukuhlala is better. Now, if our political leaders already besayicela vote yakho are not doing that, it means that we've got a big job ahead of ourselves on the other side of the 29th of May. Funeka thina siyibeke agenda nabazali bethu to our political leaders. And that's the thing we must be organizing ourselves for. Siyamani sonke bethuna? Okay, ke. The last thing, I've spoken about youth beyond the ballot. I've spoken about what we can learn from equal education. Now I want to talk about why Human Rights Day and this conversation. There's something called the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Zonke countries badlileyo apha elizweni have signed this thing, Universal Lizwe lonke Declaration of Human Rights. Le declaration yasekelwa, and then my sister right, it came about after World War II. Because too many people had died in too many countries ngenxa yemfazwe. But abantu abaphetheyo sinidi into wonke umuntu is going to commit and saying siyaye kubulalana ngoku ngenxa yemali nomhlaba. One of the main things that the declaration universal ethethayo is that people must be protected at all costs. All people, including the Palestinians. But what is happening today, niyikhumbula was 2 years back, I think, bekukho ne-war ye-Russia ne-Ukraine, niyamkhumbula laa mcimbi sasindabeni? Unjalo? Niyayibona into eyenzekayo e-Democratic Republic of Congo? Benikhe nawabona la maqabane aseCongo esithi hoka kwi-mining, ne? Beniyazibona ne-girls zaseSudan ziyakhala kulaa ndawo sihlala kuyo. Recently, actually, naseNigeria, apha ezivekini bekuthiwa aphinda athathwe. Niyamkhumbula uBoko Haram kuthiwa bring back the girls. Niyamkhumbula laa mcimbi uphinde wenzeka ke ngoku, ne? Ngoku sibukeleyo sonke. I'm sharing these things because ndifuna niyazi into yokubana our experience of democracy eshotayo apha eSouth Africa is not unique to us. All across the world, democracy is under threat. Intando yesininzi ayisahlaleleki kwinkokheli zethu across the world. Umuntu ufaka ipower because ivotile aqhube ngehlobo afuna uqhuba ngalo yena. But economy imizekelo where young people particularly have been able to put their own government on their own terms in leadership. Mamela ungahambi ngeyethu yonke lento. The first example kuseChile, eSouth America. Seniyoyijonga into zakuthi ukhona iChile lelo mcimbi mapha ku TikTok, I promise. I-president yaseChile namhlanje was once a student leader, deputy president. In 6 years' time, ngamathambo, nguwophethe South Africa. Siyamani sonke? That's what happened in Chile. A student movement, nabantu abatsha, got together and organized themselves to vote in for a president that they wanted. The youngest president in the world was elected in Chile 2 years ago, elections zabo. The term was democracy is under threat. Data economy in Chile. So there's possibilities if siyafuna. Last year in Brazil, konyulu president omcha, okuthiwa nguLula. uLula xa isibiza ukuthi uyi-socialist, bekhona abaqabane benxibe red beret up, mhlawumbi azawuvakalelwa. uLula naye kuthiwa he got his majority through the youth vote. Equal education, treatment action campaign, abahlali basemjondolo, the students of Forte all got together and said, we need something different, Makabane. Umhlaba uyaphela. And together they were able to vote in a socialist present leader. A first program yakalula country yakhe was to give back umhlaba to the people of the Amazon. You can even do the Amazon jungle. Kuhlala abantu pha. But the previous president was taking lamhlaba wase Amazon and selling it to abantu abazakwenza mines phakula ndawo. Athi ebantwini nasenizibonele into zakuthi. Siyambani sonke? I'm trying to say to you in this room that there is a possibility if we act together as young people to elect a kind of government that represents our needs. Because we've got the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a shuffle happens in South Africa after. 69 people died. I think something like 610 people are wounded. But that's just in Sharpeville. But there's massacres happening in different parts of the Eastern Cape. Kula period, amabhulu namapolisa nabafana nathi na kuthiwa shoot to kill if umuntu uyathetha. Siyamani sonke? When we get our democracy and we start remembering history, kuthiwa no man. Ngalemini kwakubhubhe abantu eSharpeville, we need to commemorate lamini sibizi into. And it is always an opportunity to never forget how our people, ngentando yesininzi, can wage struggle and win it. Ndifuna unithembisa ngoku maqabane because I believe it too. That oppression, hunger, unemployment, injustice, sexual assault, all of those oppressions can end. Iyaphela into xa ingalawulwa yintando yesininzi. The same way that apartheid fell. Equal education, we've got a hashtag. Ayo hashtagging, align what. Every generation has its own struggle. Actually, now these are 16-year-olds, and there's since I don't 16, I definitely wasn't changing the world. The economy done sense is but I mean, I don't want to talk about those things now. But I'm sharing this because I want to say to you that who are younger than you, that are in the same schools that we went to, are saying, Tina, we're going to stand up and act together, consciously and progressively, to change our education system. Bunowabuza la makabane, xa ubuza ba utheni ulapha ko-equal education, uthi ndenzela into umntana sekhaya uzemva kwam afunde kwisikolo esingcono kunesi sam. Imfundo yakhe kanye ibe ngcono kunale yam. Siyamani sonke? Young activists are clear that when you're organizing yourself for progressive change, as our gains take a long time, but we must do them together. So I encourage everyone here to make their time at this university and on this earth to mean something. Msebenzele umntu ofana nawe. Msebenzele umntu that is in your community. Work for your own freedom too. We must be able to sow seeds, Makabane, so that in the future, ukule, part of the things that we were dreaming about. As a city, we want a better world for us all. Siyamani sonke? The people that organized the marches of Sharpeville, the two guys that were in front, were ages 20 and 24. See it, Abu. led one of the biggest protests in apartheid South Africa against apartheid. Namhlanje, we're standing on halls, beautiful halls, in beautiful institutions. Sisithi nathi sizakwazi ufunda from lendo and plant our own seeds and wage our own struggle, because every generation has its own struggle. Mandla. Amandla. Anifuni ke nini kodwa kusesikolweni apha ngawethu ngenkani. Amandla. Ngawethu ngenkani. Amandla. Ngawethu ngenkani. Enkosini kakhulu for your time, comrades.
Hey, I almost said Amandla. My boss is here. I would have been fired by now. Colleagues, thank you so much. Can we give her another warm round of applause, please? Thank you so much. She did say quite a mouthful. You know, if I was told that food is organized, I would have said I'm full, because she said a lot. You know, so I think she did quite justice to giving us, you know, this lecture and obviously taking us through what Human Rights Day is in the context of the current South Africa. I think, colleagues, because of time, we had scheduled the event from 2 to 4, and we also wanted to have discussions. I'm going to take one round of discussions, and obviously, if you have any questions that you want to direct to the guest speaker, I'm going to allow one round for that discussion, and then also because of the time and other commitments, then request that we adjourn. But obviously, now it's for time for discussions, questions. If you have any comments and clarities, and now is the time for that. We're going to do it in order. We're going to raise our hands, and then if there's a roaming mic, obviously you'll be given an opportunity. Do not give an exegesis. Don't give a preamble of your question. Get straight to the question. If you want to have outside conversations, I believe she will be here to cater for that. But colleagues, let's get into that discussion and see if there are any hands. I see a hand at the back. SRC member, leadership. There's one hand with, from the chap with the Youth League shirt, and then the SRC and SRC projects and entertainment. Can I see other hands, colleagues? The ladies, you are fine. It's Novoyo. Siavoya. Oh. Yeah, in that order, I will start with Comrade Youth League, Deputy President, and then Projects and Entertainment Office.
Oh, thank you very much, Program Director. Let me pass my greetings to the Student Affairs Division, not going through their portfolios. Mine is short and simple. I have a few discussion and also few questions about the theme. Let me start from discussing. Building the youth empowerment beyond the ballot involves empowering young people to engage in various forms of civic participation beyond voting. This includes advocacy in community organizing and grassroots activism. It's about equipping young people with the skills, resources, and platforms to effect change in their communities and beyond, whether through direct action, policy advocacy, or social movement. Here is my questions. But the first question is, how can we amplify youth voices and ensure they are included in decision-making processes? The second one is, how can we address barriers to the youth participation, such as lack of access to education, economic opportunities and political representation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Deputy President, can we give leadership a mic here?
Thank you, MC. My name is Lwazi, the Deputy President. Because of time, I'm not going to preempt, let's go straight to a few number of questions. Number one, on equal education. That's number one. On equal education, do you actually advocate for only infrastructural support, or infrastructural support and other supports for students, or also you have a question on education in terms of, is it a fair and quality education in terms of the curriculum, in terms of the content? It is actually taught at school, primarily at primary level and secondary level. And also, what is your view on this 30% pass rate and other stuff? That's number one. Then number two, since you are much interacting with youth, what is your view? Do you think the youth will maximally participate on the upcoming elections? And what is your view on voter and political apathy amongst the youth? The other part that I want to actually raise, I can hear that in your presentation, if I may say, you believe in socialism. And in your view, I just want to find out, what is socialism in the context of South Africa and Africa at large? Then the other part is on the constitution. Do you think South Africa's constitution is pro-black, and if it is used properly, it can solve the alarming inequality that is maximally affecting the black and youth in particular? Thank you.
Let me take this opportunity to greet everyone. My name is Somila Sipata. I'm the current Project and Entertainment Officer. Actually, I won't be questioning. I would say it's commenting and discussing, because I think UDP Upper has read so many questions. So I will try to be brief as much as I can. Firstly, I want to come to your point where you said problems change for every generation. Because if you look at how it was back then, the struggle was for education. But then as time evolved, we wanted free education. And then as time went on, it went on from just having free education to us wanting to have free quality education. But then the more we progress, the more we realize that it's not fair that we only have free and quality education, because that is like, you're going to give us every content we need, but in terms of infrastructure, in terms of everything we need, you are not going to provide for us. What you are going to provide for us is the education we ask for, of which giving us only education is not enough. And it's enough that so education, of which now I'm doing my honors in education, in inclusive. The points that you are coming up with, very familiar with them, and so even outside that are very much needed, of which equal education is not only one needed, because you can go to the same institutions, but you, in terms of in things order, basic needs that are needed, it is not the same. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that as much as we are evolving, we also need to evolve in the way we do things. And then come to when you said that unity is, I would say, is the best way to attack any kind of problem we have. Because back then, during the time where the youth took its stance against what was happening back then, the Sharpeville massacre, is that their unity in coming to the intersection, it wasn't only about to say that I want education, others are saying I want household or free. We all wanted education, of which we came together and wanted one thing. So even here in Fortem, as the SRC, we always say that if students say in one word, we want our monies to come to us, it is much easier to move in that direction. But when there's separation of things we want, it becomes difficult to deliver, because one wants the other and one wants the other. So basically, if we're all to say, this is what we want in unity, and even if there was a year where almost, I'd say, the majority of the country said, we want President Zuma to be out. And that actually happened, because we wanted it as a majority. So even if we wanted to change the presidency of this time, if we are not unified, then we're basically just going to be people moving around and saying things that they want. But if we are united in one thing, I believe that we can achieve it. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, my leader. Can we give Ms. Dube the mic so that she can respond to the questions and then, yes. Okay.
Nkosini comrades, I'm going to try and organize responses into three thoughts, ne? So that izokhawuleza kancinci. Now, 81%, so in a room of 10 children, about grade 4, 8 of them, of those 10, cannot read for meaning in South Africa. Bayakwazi uwabiza la magama, but together they can't understand le nto ithethwayo. Siyamaniswa? This was proven by an international study. Ibiza country, it is an test abantwana baku grade 4, sinixelele bandawuni in terms of where they should be in their learning. Siyamaniswa ne? During that COVID period, nikhumbula i-rotational timetable. Bakhona abantu bebefunda ngayo mos ne? Bakhona abanye bethu were going to school once a week, which means 4 times a month. Ne? But ke ngoku kwezinye izikolo, because class kakade iqhela ubana abantwana bayi-28, bikwazi ukwenzeka social distancing, not so? So bebeqhuba bona. Siyamaniswa? The reason I'm sharing this reality is because while 8 of 10 children abaku grade 4 in South Africa can't read for meaning, that stat has gotten worse because of like impact of COVID. That abantwana abasezikolweni in quintile 1, 2, 3, and some 4, zizikolo zethu ke ezo, quintile 1, 2, and 3, ne? Ngabo bodwa who were able to learn less and therefore have less understanding of umsebenzi wabo in comparison to abantu abakuzikolo eziko quintile 4 and 5, white schools, or previously known as Model C. Iyangena lento ndithethayo? The reason ndiyicacisa le meko is because, and yazi ke nezi video namhlanje ndithethelela ne Department of Education, it's a wild day. The Department of Education, when deciding what does it take for to progress from grade to grade, is because the education system yethu is not where it should be. Siyamaniswa? Bawukwazi ufunda kwa grade 4 kaloku imaths ka grade 6 izawusebenza ngawe. Are we all together? So, 30%, not 30%, mamelani kaloku ngeyethu lento. 30% no 35% pass rate, Makabane Youth League payana, is not what it takes for you to move to the next grade. Kutwa payana, you have to get over 50% for 2 or 3 main subjects. you have to get to a level of 40% for languages. If you're choosing Maths Lit, you have to pass that with an over 40. So it's a combination of different subjects as they expect at different results. And then kuthiwa ke ngoku, for 2 of these subjects, a 30% mark, idibene nezinye ezino 50 no 40 will help you progress to the next grade. Thinking, irrational department is that at different ages and levels, as ukhulu ufunda, and if catch up mos, awusazikhumbula izinto okanye awuzazi anguzifunde. Kuzawufakwa interventions at different levels to make sure that abantu are being caught up. Many of us here from about grade 9 were going to afternoon classes. Siyamani sonke, ne? Many of us in grade 10, 11, and 12 were attending gen schools. Siyamani sonke? Those are all different interventions at different levels where government is saying, siyayazi, but the whole system is behind and nyeke. So zawuzama indlela to make sure that at the bare necessities people can progress, and then at different times sifake intervention to make sure bakhona bazawufika kwa matric. Siyamani sonke? With that said, the question around, do you only deal with infrastructure issues? Sometimes we run into people, atumdu, hayi, but equal education, thina ngasebenzi no miss. It's a complicated story, ne? But one of the reasons, one of the things we always say back to people is like, look, don't take away the social movement, yabafundi. Until these learners say to us, siceli campaign only about omisi, ayizopopa. Are we all together? The issues and the motive force behind the organization is the issue that the learner themselves identifies as most important for bona. But, like any political movement, we have an ideology. Difuna sibuye manje ngenye imini sinento ekuthiwa education charter ekudala siyicirculator across the world. Phakla charter siyathetha about that ukuzilunge, comrades, our education system must be of quality, but it must also be decolonized. Akwazi kaloku ndibuza how many kilometers the aeroplane aeroplane ndiyibone TV car. Siyambani sonke? Decolonize education system means that ufundisa umuntu ngalento yaziyo ethnographically kulaa ndawo asuka kuyo. Nendlela oyigrade ngayo i-knowledge yomntana is depending on le ndawo bahlala kuyo. Are we all together? Those things are happening but very slowly inside of our education system. Bakhona nabantu abasazawulauncha very recent in the next education cycle a new curriculum ye-history. So inilinde mhlawumbi sawudibana naye noBiko enqabavu phayana. What does socialism mean? See, comrades. The first thing that I think socialism about is land. When abantu base-West first introduced this idea of capitalism, neoliberalism, esisiphila kuzo namhlanje, baqala ngokuthi umntwini wena nefamily yakho nizawuhlala kulaa piece yomhlaba nodwa, ningavumeli omnye umuntu nikhe ne-gate hockey. Ezilalini masidala kangakho gate hockey ngaphandle bayenzela into yobana iinkomo zingaphumi ziye kwameza ziyomosha. Siyamani sonke? The idea of individual claim to izinto is the instrument of whiteness. So the first thing we have to do in a socialist agenda is encourage urhulumente to give people umhlaba bazobuyisela isidima sabo. Uzityise ube nendawo yokuhlala esafe evulekileyo. At the moment sinayo land policy yonika umhlaba ebantwini. Ine restitution, ine terms and conditions. Ithi la policy nizakunika lo mhlaba ndimthathile kuBus John. But if you can't make this land productive in the next 3 years, ndiyawuthatha. Siyamani sonke? Bundinika umhlaba namhlanje mna andizokwazi uwenza productive because zange ndinasespinach phaa kum back. But other than that, I've never had to deal with land at that scale. See, are we all together? So the conditions of giving people back their dignity ngomhlaba wabo should be not contested. The last thing connected to land and dignity is justice. Pako justice ke ngicinga nomcimbi safety. Andithethi ngamaphara ke ngoku. Ne? Sithetha nge-socialism, things of the future. Belingazobakho iphara, phofu andilithande lo gama actually. Abantwana bakamakwethu, our brothers and sisters and siblings, bebengazobakho conditions of having to depend on substances if imeko yokuhlala kwindawo esikuzo was better. Siyamani sonke? If wonke umuntu felt safe and seen and dignified ekuhlaleni, there wasn't going to be a need for you uthi ngathi uzincame kwawena for a short fix. So those are the things I mean when I talk about socialism. Last question is around the elections. Besithethile pha, but how do we have more of these kinds of events? Le nto bendithetha ngayo ke, keep talking and organizing each other. And where do you find young people? What we always say in our movement is that you must find, xa organize umntu leader, organize kule ndawo akuyo. Find people where they're at, and thethe physically, ke ndithetha nalapha mentally. Akhona amaqabane, I'm sure aqomba ithini le nto na bendithetha nayo izokudotutoni sithi mamele kuzabakho umculo pha sokonwaba sincokola ngale way but imnandi ndifuna umfind kula ndawo kuyo because useyifake ne-lipstick ndiyambona uba usendleleni ephumayo umayilita kwayena siyamani sonke. So when you're organizing young people, find them on the platforms that they use. Talk to them in their language so that xa bengena kule nto uza uyi-introdusayo bayakwazi uyi-informa ngale ndlela bona bacinga bathanda nibafuna ngayo. So also when we're meeting and talking to learners, asiyenzi in the classroom style ehleli ngehlobo. Iba zizitulo in a circle, small groups and breakaways, sifundisane ngendlela wonke umuntu pha feels engaged. Ndenza umzekelo, siyamani sonke ne? How do you mobilize young people and get their voices? Find them where they are. Ngene tavern uyothetha ngale nto siyifunayo and how we want to change the world for that ibe ngcono kunangoku. And then having more events like this where we are just in conversation with each other about izinto esizifunayo. So the constitutional kukho abantu emaqabana athi constitution yethu ayisebenzi ne, but ndiyithandele la question because it also iziphendulile ithe if the constitution was used the right way, would it solve the crisis of inequality? Absolutely. Absolutely. I-constitution ithi mnandi ephepheni into zakuthi. But what happened is that thina sayinika abantu sathi ine sikuvotele uthi make sure the constitution iyenzeka. Ayisebenzi njalo lokho idemocracy. Funeka wena uyiphakamele into yakho. Simani sikhumbuzana leadership to ordinary person into yokubana sasithumene kaloku. Does it make sense? The constitution can only live if you give it life and legs. Uyisebenzise to talk to people about your needs zakho and what you want to see happen in the world. And that's what these equalizers, ilena members zethu, are doing every day through this equal education. I think mandi bambe up. Last story. Equal education classes sebenza campaigns zethu. We don't talk about making changes in our schools. We talk about making changes in the school community. The reason for that is because we understand that these struggles are intersectional. We are education and social justice advocates. So xa silwela imfundo thina, xa ndidibene nomuntu osemahlala semjondolo ndithi mama, umcimbi wakho wasetyotyombeni emjondolo affects me too if my school is in that area. So xa siyothi idolo phezulu masambeni sonke so we can build a unified action around issues that matter to us. Bawukho manzi eariyeni yakho, awuzubakho manzi esikolweni no. Siyamani sonke ne? So education is what we use to start young people very young on activism and consciousness. Phako youth groups that are struggling infrastructure kasi fako biko kwa September, biko month. Siyamani sonke? What is the making of the working classes? That's only hard taxes. Why befika belungu yayithwani gold P to try and explain why education systems zethu zingafani. But the education system yethu is a mirror of the world that we live in. Country nayo unequal. Iyangena kancane? Okay, ngathi ngiyavuma nangam, but ke that's what I've got for now. Enkosini, comrades, ne? Thank you very much to everyone.
Masibulele. Enkosi Nono. Thank you so much. Colleagues, before we close, there was a request to hand out gifts. I don't know if that's still in order. So I'm going to ask you guys to quickly come and have that lamqimbi. If you can have that. I don't see the gifts. Am I the one who's the gift?
I'm a gift myself.
Oh.
Can we have our leadership committee come to give over the gifts, please? Abafomali zange ndababona sana. Okay, we'll start from apha kuwena and then ekugqibeleni, just calling out the people that you'll be giving out the gifts to.
Molweni, mna ndizobenika uMr. D Munzelele, student developer.
Miss S. Mqolo, Student Development Unit.
Greetings to you all at large. Greetings to you all at large. I will be giving Mr. S. Sipanda the Entertainment RSRC.
Greetings to you all. I'll be giving to Mr. Licho, the Program Director.
Greetings to you all. I'll be giving this gift to the SRC President, Mr. Martinisa.
Greetings to the House at large. Mna ndizobe ndinika Miss Mangele Mqonywa, a comrade who contributed for us to be here today, and thank you to her.
We apologize, comrades. Ms. S. Mngonywa could not be here, but she's one of the comrades that really contributed in making sure that we are here today. Cala simqabele in her absence. Just one last announcement before the closure. It's an important one that we are asked about a lot when we're doing our mobilization. A lot of people would have gotten the small cards, ne? We only had 260 of them. Unfortunately for us, the cards ended right just before the guest speaker spoke. So you will hand your card with the EE stamp, and then you will get, it will work as a food voucher, and then you will get your meal as we are going out. Unfortunately, if you didn't get a card, that means you came in almost after the guest speaker spoke. Noko ke ma comrades siyenza umcimbi we discipline. Enkosi kakhulu. Sorry guys. Xolweni. At the back of your card, ne, is Equal Education's details. So it has our office address, it also has our office number. Before you hand the card back to us, please take a picture of it. Ne?
Can we give a round of applause, please? Thank you so much. Colleagues, we have reached the last item. Silence, please. Silence, please. Silence, please, ladies. Ladies, silence, please. Thank you so much. Colleagues, we have reached the last item on the program. Just before I call Ms. Mqolo to come and do the closing, I was a bit worried when people were getting gifts because I was asking whether I'm going to receive one or not. So when I was called, I became a bit relaxed. And I said, no, it's fine. The program can close. Colleagues, thank you so much. But she will do the extensive closing. But thank you so much. And if there was anyone that I stepped on their toes as a program director, it was my first time being a program director. So please forgive me. Can we welcome Ms. Mqolo to come and do the vote of thanks and the closing. Thank you so much.
Molweni, I would like to take this time to thank each and everyone Olapa. We were worried because we didn't think the venue will be full to this capacity. But it means that we have future leaders, we have people that are interested in the affairs of South Africa, as SD said, we need to be the youth that is concerned about what is happening around us. So we appreciate your presence up, because if you guys were not here, this event would have been just a waste of money and effort. So by you being here, it means a lot. Ngicela niziqhwabele izandla. Also, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Equal Education, who came to the office and pitched this idea to say they would like to collaborate with the office to celebrate Human Rights Day. This is a very important day, and it needs us to have a broader understanding. It makes us to be woke in the terms that are being used currently. Also, as much as we are correcting, as much as we are criticizing and we are planning, but we also need to appreciate the efforts of the struggles that happened and the results of the struggles that led us to be here today. Because today we are in an institution where our rights are catered for, education is catered for, proper residencies, we get residencies. We have a very diverse university where we incorporate each and every race, each and every ethnicity. We have programs to celebrate each and every person, and no one is excluded in those. So that's one thing that we also need to appreciate. We have leaders that are the voice of those who seemingly have lesser voice or who don't have the courage yet to speak out. So those are the things that we need to be celebrating today. As much as we are criticizing, as much as we are complaining or we are demanding, but we also need to be a youth that knows when to appreciate and what to appreciate. So with that, we also thank our MC, as he stated that it's his first gig being an MC, but he did exceptionally well. Thank you, Mr. Lichu. Thank you to everyone, the staff members that attended. Some of you would have preferred to just rest today and then go back to work tomorrow, but you decided to be part of this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, colleagues. The program is officially closed. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your... just a few... Injal. Thank you so much, colleagues. You may leave. Thank you so much, colleagues.